And I think in your comment, you had said, hey, I don't call the counter guy. I call and I ask for Greg, because guess what? Greg and I have a relationship. Greg knows I'm a service company and I need these parts. Like, somebody doesn't have heat because of these parts. Right.
Right.
It's not like I'm doing this job in a month and I need this igniter.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Make Trades Great Again podcast. Andy, how you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
Good. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way real fast. Everybody, you can message us over on Instagram. The links are in the show notes in your podcast app. You can also text us. There's also a link in your podcast app for that. So we had a couple cool episodes recently, Andy, about like people writing in. And today we have one that you and I were just talking about off air. And it's not somebody writing in, but we are part of this Facebook group that's for this software we use and everything like that. And somebody wrote in asking the group question, like sourcing HVAC parts.
Yep.
Frustrations. Are you guys seeing the problems out there that we're seeing, getting parts for things like boilers and stuff like that?
Yep.
And it's not anything that we haven't talked about in the past, but I replied to it. I think you saw that as well. Yep. That's how we kind of started talking about it. And there's some good replies in there, but basically this person wrote in to the group saying, hey, we're trying to get parts locally. We're in Colorado, and it seems like these supply houses aren't putting any effort into helping us. We call and ask for parts, and they get back to us days later, or they just say, hey, we can't get that, or nobody's stocking anything. And it would look like a lot of frustration based around like them just simply not getting the service that they were hoping for.
Yep.
And I know you and I have had we've logged lots of private conversation hours on frustrations of getting parts and things like that. But it seems like this person, looking at their replies to other comments and stuff, was they're having a hard time. And I don't know if I made the assumption in my comment that they're just don't have the relationships they need.
Yep.
To get the kind of follow through they're hoping for, but I don't know. What do you think? I'm just trying to set this up so we can talk. I think it's a worthy conversation to have.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's something that if you're not struggling with your parts supply, just count yourself as #blessed. I don't know. I guess my look on it is I read the comment and I was like, whatever, do that every day.
Yeah.
Right. I just sat down last night and spent, 2 hours when I got home, ordering parts for a bunch of sheet metal parts for a job that Tristan and Rob are going to do here, this week. And, it was a job that wasn't supposed to happen until next week. And I thought that, well, I got some time, and it ended up getting moved up a week.
Sure.
Totally fine. I just didn't have my poop in a group, and, I needed a bunch of Ys, and I needed a bunch of, C boxes and grills and stuff like that, to get this job done. And I go online and I'm like, I'm going to go to my regular old, Gensco's, where we buy a lot of sheet metal from. Big Pacific Northwest dealer here. And they didn't have like this fitting, and they didn't have that fitting, and they didn't have this. And I'm like,
can't complete the order through one source. Yeah.
So ultimately, and it's not any different than anything else, but I had to go in and go, okay, well, let's go to DSG. Let's see if DSG's got those, and then how many, can I go to 2 vendors instead of 4?
Right.
Try
your hardest to get the one transaction if you can.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and that's one of those things. It's, then you're at the mercy of, can I do this online? Because it's after 5 and there's nobody at the counter. And it's not their fault that it's after 5 and nobody's at the counter. That's my fault. I should have done this a week ago. And
in your scenario, yeah. Well, I find myself that way all the time. Having access to, whether it's accurate or not, some access to inventory from your supplier is like been one of the biggest game changers with like online ordering from your local supplier, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Seeing if they have it, making those decisions. Do I have to go somewhere else, or can I get it from a different branch? Can I get it all from Johnstone, but one from this branch, one from that branch, that kind of thing.
Yep.
That's super helpful.
It is. And I guess I would say to, the person was originally posted, you mentioned it, having a good open line of communication with a couple of people at your branch.
Yeah.
And I think in your comment you had said, hey, I don't call the counter guy. I call and I ask for Greg, because guess what? Greg and I have a relationship. Greg knows I'm a service company and I need these parts. Like,
Yeah.
somebody doesn't have heat because of these parts, right?
Right.
It's not like I'm doing this job in a month and I need this igniter. It's
Yeah.
usually I did this job yesterday and now
And
it's tomorrow because that was last night, and I need
yeah.
this part because they haven't had heat since Sunday.
Right. Right. And that's never your supplier's fault, right?
No.
Let me just I'm not going to name the person who wrote this, but I'll just paraphrase by reading most of what they said. It
Yeah.
says, okay, so I guess I need advice on where you all get parts for HVAC. Our supply houses are becoming more and more useless. Either they simply don't have the part anymore or don't try to get it, or the employees are so lazy they don't care to do their job. This person's probably very frustrated.
Sure.
So maybe they don't normally call people lazy. Maybe they do. I don't know. It has taken days to finally get a, in quotes, we don't have that part and the distributor won't sell it to us, unquote, response, which has been incredibly frustrating. Yeah, absolutely. They're not wrong on that.
No.
We have used Supply House. They're talking about the online supplier, but we seem to be getting a lot of boiler work lately and can't find their parts. We are in such and such Colorado. It doesn't matter. And is this happening everywhere? What online sources do you use to find much needed parts quickly? We are a small team, no employees. And yeah. So anyway, they do say at the end, and I hate going online because if everyone does that, the parts stores will close and that would be too bad. Thank you. Okay. I'm not going to pick on that statement, but I do want to say something. I mentioned that in my reply.
Yep.
You don't want to go online. I'm sorry. You have to.
Yep.
And your suppliers know that, and they should be doing, and this is my opinion, they should be doing as much as they can to keep you from going online by servicing you locally. Like if that's what if they're not into your business, then what does that mean? Are they not into everybody else's business? Because like every company has the option to go online.
Yep.
Like if I'm the 100-man shop and I need 80 boxes of 3-inch long-term 90s PVC, I could buy them online if I want. Doesn't matter. I don't have to buy them locally, Yep. In fact, my comment, I don't know if I should I don't know. Did I read my comment?
If you want to.
I don't have to read it. Basically, I said like, look, you do have to go online. Like I just said just now. Yeah. We've been doing it for over a decade nearly. And lately, like kind of as a default.
Yeah.
Right. I prefer to buy from my local suppliers too, but I'm not under any delusion that they're going to go out of business because I'm using their competitor, whether that competitor is across town or online. Like this is business, and business has changed maybe in the last 20 years, but this is not new.
No.
And
I don't think it's unique to the HVAC industry.
No, not
the
at all.
entire supply chain for every single industry and every market has been impacted by some sort of online sales. I mean, here's a prime example. We just finished this job this week. We had a big master shower retrim, right?
Okay.
Using existing rough-in bodies, existing valve bodies, new stems, new trim, whatever. Nice little project, like $4,500 project,
Yeah. Yeah.
I looked around. I couldn't find, what did I end up getting locally? I ended up getting 2 stop assemblies locally. I ended up getting 1 shower arm locally, and I think 1 shower head out of like 19 parts, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
3 or 4 of them came locally because that's what was in stock. The rest of that stuff came from either Amazon or Supply House, or I think Build.com was another one where I got parts.
Yeah.
Right. And I looked at that and I said, well, I could have called one of my local vendors and said, hey, can you put this order together? And they would have said, absolutely, we'd love to put it together for you. It's going to be 3 to 4 weeks or whatever,
Yep.
because we're going to have to order it from Moen, because we don't have it. I got 4 packages from Ferguson. I got 2 packages from like a Win Nelson or something out of Connecticut.
Yeah.
And that's where my Amazon stuff came from. It came from your local supply house who's selling it from another branch somewhere else on Amazon.
Yeah.
And there's I go, well, damn it, I should be able to buy that from my supply house. You know what? I can't over it. I got it. I got the parts. They're quality products. They're not a consumer grade knockoff.
Right.
Right. It's the same part number.
Yep.
I may or may not have bought some of those parts cheaper than my local supply house had them advertised. And I don't understand that whole concept, but I talked to one of my local branch managers here. I don't know, this is probably 3 years ago. And, right in the heat, it was probably right in the heat of the COVID shortages. And I was frustrated, having the same conversation as this user's commenting about and saying, why don't you have this?
Yeah.
And so I asked my local manager, I'm like, dude, why do I don't remember, it was like Takeo 007 pumps or something like that I couldn't
Sure.
get. And I'm like, you guys don't have any. Like, how? And he's like, I don't, let's look at our inventory. And he's like, yeah, I've got a bunch here and here, here and here. We don't have any here. And I'm like, well, why don't you have any here? He goes, well, let's look at the history on it. We sold 300 this month. And I'm like, 300? What the heck? And I'm like, to who? It's little Missoula, Montana. He goes, well, let's look. And he goes, oh, well, we sold, 163 of them to Amazon.
Sure.
And I was like, to Amazon? He's like, yeah, no, we just take fucking, like half a pallet load out to the, shipping, down to UPS and out there they go.
Right.
And then they do whatever. And he's like, they're literally our largest commercial customer.
For that supplier.
Yeah. He goes, they buy more corporate wide than any other company. And I was like, well, I mean, I get it. They would be dumb not to do that.
No, you're right. And I think just my advice to this person too, like my advice didn't go about necessarily in depth like you're in that direction that you're saying. And all of what you're saying, I agree with, and I've experienced it, and you're dead on. Like one thing that, before I get into what I said, one thing that is very true, and you bring it up, I didn't even think about it this way, is order frequency, like what they're selling in your market. Like if they're never selling that part, you have to at least acquiesce here and be like, yeah, I get it. I guess it's going to be hard to get that part because nobody has bought it in the last 2 years or something.
Yeah.
These inventory management systems they're pretty intelligent. They're not, holding on to stuff for the sake of maybe, it's very, this is a fact and we don't need to hold on to it here. It costs them money. I
mean, let's just, extrapolate that idea a little bit. 10 years ago in your market, it would have been common to probably find a Munchkin 80M or a 140M.
Yeah.
Right. They're not so much now.
Oh my God. I don't even know where to get one. Like, honestly.
So if you were going to look for a fan or let's say a Dung's gas valve adapter plate, right? That was a super common service part.
Okay.
Right. I used to carry them.
Yeah.
I don't anymore because I don't know that I even have one Munchkin right now running still that has a Dung's gas valve on it.
Right.
Right. So I don't need to carry that. And so when I come across one, it's super frustrating because I go to all my local supply. Oh yeah. We used to get this at Mountain Supply.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Mountain Supply is like, we haven't sold one of those since the last one we sold to you 9 years ago.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, I want to invite you to visit mechanicalhub.com because if you want to stay on top of the plumbing and heating industries and what's happening, you're going to want to visit our website, mechanicalhub.com. There's a hyphen in there between mechanical and hub. Don't ask. It's a long story. Anyway, While you're there, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletters. All right. The newsletter is packed with the latest news, trends, tips to keep you on top of your game. So whether you're in the shop or out in the field, we got you covered. So head over to mechanicalhub.com and join our community today. And hey, thanks for listening to the Make Trades Great Again podcast. Have a good one. Yeah, part of this person's complaint really might stem from the fact that they mentioned boilers, right? They're getting a lot of boiler work lately. Look, it's no secret. Boilers suck to work on from the aspect of it's OEM. It's only OEM.
Yeah.
Nothing is universal. You're never going to have a universal part on these like wall hung models, these high efficiency things. Like everything is OEM.
Yeah.
And so you can't possibly stock that. And I don't know why you would expect that, like how it would be different from your supplier. Your supplier should stock more things than you do, yes, but they can't stock everything either. But no, so my reply was different direction is what I took, is just that relationship thing. We've talked about it in the past on the show here. Having that relationship with your outside salesperson is so incredibly important, and you might not think so, but when you need them, they're typically the one of maybe two people that are there to help you.
Yep.
So yes, staying local is important. I acknowledge that, but I also said at the top of this discussion, you have to go online. And having that relationship with a salesperson is so important because those are the people that will check inventory that maybe you can't see or you can't find it in the system. They can rattle off the part number off the top of their head. Like, I don't know how these people do that kind of stuff. They do it all day long though. And each time I talk to John Kelly from Good & Company, he can name the part number for a 3-inch black nipple. And I'm like, how do you do that? You know what I mean?
Right.
But, that's their job, and having the relationship with them so they know who you are, they know why you're asking. And if there's this like mutual respect there, they're the ones that are going to be willing to help you. So that was part of my response to him. And the second part was, the rep. Like, I don't have a lot of rep relations, but I have a couple, and they're the ones that I have acknowledged I'm not wasting their time. They're not wasting my time. There's a lot of common occurrences where I'm using products that they're repping, and I'm doing it a lot. So having a relationship with that rep is super important to me because in my comment, I meant in this Facebook post, I mentioned, they're the ones that know the suppliers you're not working with. Okay. Right. There's plenty of suppliers in Twin Cities. There's probably some that I don't even know exist, to be honest with you. I certainly couldn't drive to them. I haven't done business with them. Those are the ones that your rep can actually put you in touch with and might help you out big time. Yeah. You may pay a little more for a part or something, but if that's the only part in town and your rep put you in touch with them, that's why that relationship is important. Yeah. So maybe this person is just super frustrated. I'm not picking on the person at all. That's not why we want to talk about it. Those relationships can go a long ways, and having reasonable expectations, I think, is what you and I have just already talked about. Starting this conversation is like, you have to understand that you're probably going to end up sourcing from multiple places. Yeah. It's unfortunate.
I agree. And the multiple sources is a key factor. I find that I think what's alleviated a lot of my frustration with this is when I call the supply house, I don't call them and ask for,
can you find me this?
Find me this part. It's, do you have this part number?
Yeah. I've done the legwork before I call them.
Yeah. And that will, in most cases, alleviate the conversation to, yes, I have it. No, I don't have it. Or, I have a source. Let me see how far out it is. A lot of the manufacturers, like for instance, Lochinvar, right? They've changed their whole supply structure recently. Okay. Anybody that's in boiler work knows this frustration of getting it's going to come from the factory and it's 2 weeks out. Oh. Well, what do you mean it's 2 weeks out? Or what do you mean it's 3 weeks out? Or whatever. I get it. You know what? It's the world we live in. I'm less frustrated by that now than I was 6 months ago when I first got the, what do you mean you don't have a burner door refractory? I mean, that's like that. You should have, everybody should have those. And I don't. Well, why don't you have it? Well, okay.
Yep.
That said, knowing how to find the part number, like the actual part number, model serial number, absolute critical. And, if you can get on the manufacturer's website, they should have a pro partner login. Goodman does it. All of your manufacturers, if you're a dealer for Trane or a dealer for Amana, whatever, Daikin, you can get into there. You should have access to their parts. If you're not a dealer for those, I saw somebody in there in the comments on this post
saying they couldn't get parts.
Couldn't get parts for Mitsubishi, I think was the deal, because they're not a dealer.
Yeah.
You know what? The best possible scenario of that is go to that dealership that sells Mitsubishi, talk to the manager, the sales manager or whatever, and say, listen, I'm not a dealer. I get that these parts only come through dealership. I service this particular type of equipment, all brands. How do I become a dealer so that I can buy parts? Right? Like, because they're not generally interested in turning away sales. Right. Their job is to sell parts to somebody. Now, granted, are they going to protect their dealers who have spent the time and spent the money and spent the effort to become diamond dealers? Yep, absolutely. They're going to protect those dealers because they buy and bring a lot of business.
However, but they start at the bottom, though.
Yes.
Every one of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so if you're looking for repair parts, then generally they will go, oh, yeah, all we have to do is create a customer account for you. Will you go online to Mitsubishi and sign up for Mitsubishi and, make sure you're on there as listed as a contractor and then take this online training or whatever. And then we'll get you set up.
Yeah.
Generally they're not going to give you preferred pricing, right? The price is going to be what it is, but
look, that's the same. Even if it's not a dealer situation, you find a part for a supplier that you don't do a lot of business with, that kind of thing. Right.
Yep.
It's all about sourcing it, like you're saying. I mean, that's remedy to a situation that you've kind of put yourself in, to be honest with you, because it's not that manufacturer that requires the dealership. It's not like they're not holding you back.
Yeah.
It's you.
Yeah.
I don't think, and again, let's acknowledge, like, I don't think that's where this person was coming from, but like, all part of the whole conversation outside of this Facebook, post, that things we deal with. Right.
Yeah.
And
yep.
I mean, we've gone through periods of time recently, like with the pandemic, the scamdemic. What do we call it these days? I don't know. Sorry. I'm just joking. Where we couldn't remember. I mean, how many times have I brought it up with you? Like, I replaced an entire boiler that was like 5 years old because I couldn't get a exhaust, inducer fan for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They don't make it anymore. Yep.
Right. And so but it was like I couldn't get a part. The parts exist, somewhere, but not locally. You know what I mean?
Locally. Yeah.
But that being said, like, you've called around and you've found, like you just said, like, you found many times where you just can't get everything you need, or you can't get even just the one part. You find it across the country here or there. Like, I think you're the one that actually turned me on to the idea of, like, well, just check Amazon. You know what I mean?
Right.
Years ago, just like, well, I just need this faucet trim. And, they're saying it's like 6 weeks out. Yeah. Well, does Amazon have it? And I thought, I didn't ever think of that.
What's crazy is that Amazon comes directly from Ferguson. It's labeled build.com.
I know.
You're like, well, okay, I guess I don't care how it got here.
I don't. It doesn't matter at that point.
It doesn't matter anymore.
But I meant what I said when in my reply to that comment about the relationships, because as much as I ignored my reps for years and years, over the last handful of years, I've seen the importance of that relationship, because it's benefited me so many times. And I think back to my younger days in business and think, like, what an idiot I was, and thinking I don't know these guys.
I don't need these guys.
Yeah.
Well, and that goes two directions too, because as a young company, right? And as a young technician, young business owner, these guys and gals, they don't know you from any Adam, right?
Right.
You're a nobody to them, and what and on their aspect, if they don't know that you're just not just a homeowner, right?
It's a
Calling and
two-way
getting
street
for
here.
information.
Yeah. It's
And
a
as soon
two-way
as
street.
yeah, as soon as you've established that, hey, I'm Eric Ani Plumbing, and and this is what I work on, and I'm looking for some Lochinvar parts for a couple of these boilers, and then pretty quick the Lochinvar rep's like, oh yeah, I remember talking to you on the phone.
Yeah.
And when you call, and when you do that, you have developed that relationship, and now, you've kind of proven that I'm here for the long haul, right? I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be okay with a really long lead time, but I'm going to get over a really long lead time, or whatever, because that's what it is.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to figure out some other way of doing it. That it's interesting, and I hadn't really even thought about this until looking at this and reading some of the comments here. One of the things that we don't see, and if this user is new to the boiler industry, in the boiler hydronics industry, there are no dealer like deals.
Qualification. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's not like Mitsubishi and Amana and Dyke and Train, where they're like, oh, we only sell to dealers.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist in the hydronics world. Anybody can buy Lochinvar, anybody can buy Burnham, anybody can buy US Boiler, whatever the brand is.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody could go buy Viessmann. Your understanding and knowing who in your market is this is probably one of the hardest things, but that's understanding who in your market is the sales rep, or not the rep, who's the vendor for each brand. Because I know that if I call, let's say, I'm just going to throw Keller Supply out there right now.
Yep.
If I call Keller and said, I'm looking for a Goodman pressure switch, right? I know for a fact, because my sales guys at Keller Supply are freaking top notch. Those are some highly skilled, very capable counter guys, right? We're kind of, again, hashtag blessed.
It's unique.
With the counter staff in and around Missoula, right?
Yeah.
We have some really qualified wholesale counter guys, and gals, for that matter. I can call over there and I could get Jason or Ivan at Keller and say, hey, I need a Goodman pressure switch, and for this blah 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 blah, and they'll be like, well, we don't sell Goodman, do you want us to find it?
Yeah.
And if I said, yeah, I don't have time to look for it, I know that either of those two guys would be like, all right, consider it done.
Yeah.
Right. And they're going to call the other supply house across town and bring it over and sell it to me from Keller. Guaranteed. And
you're not going to get that everywhere though.
No.
That's the facts.
But I don't know how many times I've called over there and not thinking about it and ordered an aquatic shower, and got over there and found out that the aquatic shower's got a Mountain Supply sticker on it.
Funny.
And they're like, hey, you called and gave me a part number. You wanted this aquatic shower. We got it for you. Here it is.
That's unique.
Yeah.
I think what we're talking about too, though, like if you kind of sum up like this Facebook post and some of the replies to it and what we've talked about it here too, I don't think we're going out on a little limb, not knowing this person exactly their motivation. Like maybe they typed that in a little bit of frustration, a little bit of seeking help, but like some of what we've talked about today, I think as a business owner, new or long time, is it might be summed up a little bit with like going out of your comfort zone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll just use the post as an example. This person says, well, we've been getting more boiler calls lately.
Yep.
I'm going to interpret that to mean they don't normally do boiler stuff and it's a pain in their butt. Like we mentioned with the OEM stuff, they've already indicated it's a pain in their butt. But these are the kinds of things you have to work on in order for it to be less of a pain in your butt, and it's a little bit out of the comfort zone. It's like, I like doing this work. Like, I like to do this stuff because I'm good at it. Well, what you're good at is just you've gotten used to, because at one point in time, it probably was difficult.
Right.
And it, so a little bit of that too. Like, look, you gotta you got to put up with the frustrations. You've reached out to a group of people that are probably willing to try to help you. All of that's good. Along with that, the solution comes, there's a lot of things that go into the solution. You know what I mean? That's what I'm trying to say.
I think you're absolutely right there. And I guess I a moment ago, I rattled off on, having my Keller guys find Goodman parts, even though they're not a Goodman dealer.
Yeah.
Part of what I guess where I wanted to go with that is that if you call a supply house that doesn't actually deal with that part and ask them to find you that part, they're going to try and satisfy you, right?
If you've built that relationship and
well, and they may go, yeah, let me see what I can find. Right. And then a day later, they may go, yeah, we can't buy that, or I can't get that. That's not really their fault. And I guess that's where I was going with that, is that if they're not a Lochinvar dealer, right, they don't have access to those parts. They may be able to get it from somebody else.
Yeah.
And in an effort to try and satisfy their end of your relationship, they're going to try and help you out. And that may be some of what's going on. That said, I think it's important, and I find that's a hard thing with my crew. Is, I guess, not a hard thing. It's something we talk about regularly. Rather, is they'll call me and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this part for blah 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 blah." They're new enough in this market, especially in the hydronics industry, to not know who carries what of each brand.
Yeah.
Right. And so there's certain things that I have to be able to tell them that you need to go to DSG for that, because they're the only Fujitsu brand dealer. Right.
And that takes time to learn, though. Yeah. And I admittedly, I'm finding myself like wondering who sells this stuff. Yeah. Every once in a while. And I've been doing it in my market for over 20 years.
Right. But like you were mentioning, you've got supply houses in the Twin Cities that you've never even heard of. Yeah. Right. Absolutely. There might be a dealer there that's like, we're the largest slant fin parts dealer in the Midwest.
Right.
And we've got, 10,000 square feet of slant fin, spare parts, and you didn't know they existed because, well, you never had to cross paths with them.
No, you're not wrong. And having those outside relationships that might steer you toward that could be helpful.
Yeah. The rep might be able to say, oh, yeah. Oh, did you check with, Johnny's Supply?
Right.
Johnny's got, a ton of that stuff.
I'd be like, who?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough. It's, and maybe this person too, maybe that they've got all of this kind of in their back pocket. They do all of what we've talked about. And they're just literally just like, are you guys having this same problem? Because we've been there. We've had this same conversation with each other, with our other people in our network. Look, it's nothing unique, but I thought it was a good thing to talk about today. And I'd love to hear feedback from anybody else that's listening or that's gone through this. Give us a text message, like I said, or send us a DM. If you send us a DM, give us that MTGA when you started out. Just type in the letters MTGA and we'll find the DM a little faster like that. Yeah, it's a good one, Andy. This is fun.
Absolutely.
This is fun. We're in the thick of the heating season here in your climate and mine, or your market and mine. We're kind of in the same climate, but it's turned out to be a good winter for Minnesota, which it wasn't last year. And so business is good, and I'm thankful for that. We got trade shows happening like left and right.
They're coming. Tis the season.
Tis the season. We got some HVAC tactical awards coming up.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. I don't know when this goes out. Maybe it'll be right after we attended that event.
No.
Oh, so in that case, wow, that was a fun event, wasn't it?
It was amazing.
God, it was so much fun. I was so surprised to see, like, you got that Lifetime Achievement Award. It was crazy.
Yeah.
And HVAC Jake, what a joker he is, right?
Good character.
Yeah, good looking, sort of. Just kidding.
Good night.
All right. And don't forget, everybody, as we sign out, I've been loving the coffee, the jabs toward Chad with the coffee memes and the coffee makers, and tag us in those. We love it.
Oh, yeah. We'll
repost it. It's fun.
Yep.
You good, dude?
I'm good. Got it.
All right. Good talk. Thank you, man.
Yep. Have a good one.